Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Talking Cryptocurrency podcast. I'm your host, Jason Rigden. On this episode, we are talking to Navjit Dhaliwal, CEO and founder of IAGON. They're building a decentralized cloud service. Essentially, they want a giant global supercomputer powered by the blockchain. This is a really fun project. I love decentralized apps and computing. This stuff is the next generation of the cloud. But before we get to the interview, I've of course got a quick message. You want to hear something sad? Well, you're going to hear it anyway. I have a sad confession. The Talking Cryptocurrency podcast has not had a single review on Apple Podcast. It's tragic, and it breaks my heart. Luckily, you can do something about it. Yes, you can make my little heart swell with joy with just one review on Apple Podcasts. You don't even have to like the show. I'll take anything. So how about you become the first to write a review? Do it today or tomorrow, just as long as the show gets a review. Thanks. Hello, and I'm here with Navjit Dhaliwal, CEO of IAGON. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Very good. So could you tell me a little bit about the problem that your company is trying to solve?
Yeah, so the problem is actually, we're working on a decentralized cloud service that's optimized by AI, and the problem we're trying to solve is the cost of today's, let's say, cloud services. For example, the big four, as you call them, AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft, and IBM. So cost for storage and also for processing power is extremely high. Also, security is not there. You see data leaks in the news every week. You see a new type of data leak, and they also have ties with, for example, Google and also AWS, how they store their data. Reliability is another one, as in terms of uptime. So AWS has been down several times, and businesses, SMEs, lose a lot of money during that downtime. So we're able to solve those problems, which I'll explain later. And also security, as I mentioned before, in terms of security is not as let's say very important to people, especially with sensitive data. And people are worried about these big giants, for example, Google, IBM, or Microsoft, or AWS, looking into their documents or reading and learning of what they're storing in their data. And a lot of people have that transparency or privacy issues, and that's why the GDPR was kind of invented in Europe to tackle that issue. So that's the problem.
Okay, so how are some of the ways you're solving these problems?
So we're actually incorporating a decentralized cloud service. So what we're doing is we're making everything decentralized, and the centralized solutions like AWS, they have their servers or data centers, and they have staff to run that overhead costs, certain overhead costs that they, and this allows them to, let's say, price their services higher, because of course they have to pay for all their let's say staff and all their overhead as well. So what we're doing is making everything decentralized. What we're doing is getting miners onto the platform. What the miners do is they allocate a certain amount of storage or their processing power to the network. So in turn, the infrastructure becomes the miners. So we don't have any overhead costs in that sense to run that, let's say, infrastructure. And the miners are basically running that themselves, and they get awarded incentives in terms of IAGON tokens. And basically, in the sense that allows us to decrease the price by up to 80%. So that's how we solve the issue of cost effectiveness, and also reliability. So there's always a miner online. If there's one miner offline, there's another miner online to tackle that file, or have that processing power available for the client. Security, we solved that issue by dual-layer security. So we use SHA 256 on our data storage, distributed data storage, and also we use the encryption on every shard. So a shard is basically a slice of a data, and we shard each data file several ways, so many shards, and we copy each shard and spread it to the network. And the network is composed of the miners, and that let's say that fingerprint of that specific file I'll call it a fingerprint for now, but it's kind of like a pointer, is stored on the blockchain. That information is stored on the blockchain, and blockchain is fully secure and it hasn't been hacked to this day.
Hmm.
Also, in terms of efficiency, we also solve that issue. So we learn the behavior of each miner over time. So what we do is we continuously learn the behavior of each node, but through different variables in terms of performance, uptime, availability, for example, and trustability and cost benefit. So through these variables, we set a score for each miner, and according to this score, they can price their services higher or lower. And the client can also tell the network what kind of miner they want. Do they want a high performance miner? Do they want a low performance miner? Of course, the cost is different. And do they want someone that's up, let's say, available all the time, 24/7, or do they just want to access their file a few times a day?
What kind of software can you run on the system?
So it is a software in itself. So would basically you'd be downloading the software and your PC for example, Mac, Windows, or Linux, and you'll be allocating. If you're a miner, you'll be kind of just specifying what kind of how much storage you want. First of all, allocated to the network, how much processing power you want allocated to the network, and then from the client side, what you just download the platform as well, download the software, and you kind of purchase the service. So if just like Google Drive, for example, you purchase a certain service to store data for a certain amount of, let's say, 1 terabyte, you pay $5 a month. So something like that, you'll be paying in tokens, in IAGON tokens, so something relevant. And let's say if you want to buy processing power, which is more complex, these are made just for processing power is made more for SMEs and companies that are AI startups, for example.
Okay.
And they can also purchase the processing power through that same software.
Okay, but there's not like a VPS kind of solution or any kind of serverless kind of solution?
Oh well, it not yet at this
Okay.
moment. So
Yeah.
we're building it onto the app at this moment, but eventually what we're going to have is online, so it's going to be available. For example,
Hmm.
it is serverless in a sense. It's just the only software is installed onto your computer,
Okay.
so you don't actually store the files on your computer in a sense. You're storing the files on the network, so on the miners, and the miners uh, are kind of like physical. Let's say miners can be anyone. They can be anyone from a person owning a PC or a user or a data center, or for example, any other decentralized data storage platform like Coin or for example, Filecoin storage, or for example, Golem can be the processing side. So it can be anything on the grid, and it's not specifically stored on your PC.
Okay. And those miners, they can't see the data, or do they see the data?
No, so it's as the file comes in. So what the process is, the file comes in, and it's sharded into many slices, and it's encrypted, the SHA-256 encryption, and spread to the network. The only person that has a view of where the files are at a specific point is the person who stored the file. So
Okay.
no one else knows where the files are. And even if the file was able to be accessed, they have to first break the military grade encryption, which is the SHA-256, and then they they wouldn't know what to do with that slice. So
Yeah.
they only have one part of the slice of the full puzzle, and there's no way of knowing where the other parts of the slices are stored.
Okay. And is that the same on the CPU side?
Yes, yeah, same on a little bit different in terms of encryption because we have to use a different type of encryption. We're looking into different types of encryption like homomorphic encryption, but there's problems with homomorphic encryption in terms of latency. So we're looking at kind of like a hybrid, something in between, and we're working on that with our current advisors, and hopefully we get more staff members on board that can also solve this issue.
Okay. So what are some of the use cases of the people that are buying the CPU time?
So there's a wide range of kind of use cases in this model. So there are, for example, you can store your personal files, your medical files, financial records. So banks can use it. There's, for example, blockchain projects can use this for their computational power or cloud. It can also be for web services, for companies and corporations that are looking for processing power for AI. So AI requires a lot of processing power. So we are able to kind of cut the costs by up to 80%. So startup companies will be very keen to spend less money in the startup phase. And eventually, of course, if they like the product, in the further phases as well. Also for big data storage, so organizations and individuals can prevent data leaks by storing their files on the platform, and prevent any kind of hackers from collecting sensitive data.
So you're really building kind of the next generation of cloud computing.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. So what have been some of the challenges of deploying this system?
Well, right now there's in terms of the machine learning is kind of probably the most challenging aspect of it in terms of the technology. So in terms of the computing side, also that's also the homomorphic encryption. That's going to be a challenging part to solve. But we have a great team. I think that we're going to be hiring more staff members that along the way as we just reach our soft cap. So we'll be hiring new team members that be able to kind of look into this problem in more depth. I think the biggest problem, though, is aside from the technology, is the adoption. I think has to do with every kind of project in the blockchain space. I think that once blockchain becomes a mainstream kind of go-to thing, then it'll be easier to adopt. Right now, there's a steep learning curve in blockchain. So people that are coming in first have to be educated, and that education takes time. And then after that, we can kind of do the sale pitch for the product and how it works. And first, we have to educate the SMEs and educate the consumer on how it actually works. And then after that, we can make the sales pitch. That's why it's different from today's products. And today's products, most consumers are aware of the general products, electronics, for example, how they work. So it's not so hard. You just go straight to the sales pitch. It's a different types of go-to-market plan here. That's probably the hardest part right now.
One of the hardest things about explaining the blockchain is to people who aren't very familiar with technology, it sounds like magic. They really don't believe you when you say it has these characteristics, it does these things. And they're like, yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. And, is this really how it works? And can it actually do that? It's very difficult to explain in terms of technological aspect. But I think that's why we're going to be targeting a different type of group in the beginning. We're going to be targeting the AI startup companies, first of all, and also the companies that have had recent past, let's say, data leaks, and also the decentralized space. So a lot of the decentralized projects right now do have most of the data, even though they claim to be fully decentralized. They are not. A lot of them storing their data on AWS and different cloud services. And I think that we have to sway away more from that to kind of get more decentralized or blockchain more adopted into the space.
So what are some of your plans for the future? I think you're doing a token sale right now, but do you have more plans for the rest of the summer?
Yeah. Other than working on the project, not much. But so in terms of the MVP, we have our MVP available for the decentralized storage available on our website right now at www.iagon.com. And it's available on our website, but we're also updating it in the next 3 to 4 days. So we're adding a decentralized cloud marketplace, and eventually that's going to turn into the world's first decentralized, intelligent, autonomous marketplace. That's going to be the first of its kind, but that's going to be eventually after we release the first version in 3 to 4 days. It's going to be after maybe 3 to 4 weeks after that. And that's the short-term plans. Long-term plan is to be, once blockchain is adopted and fully mainstream, I think that we plan to be kind of in the lead for the decentralized cloud marketplace. That's what our plan is. Our goal is to be leading that space. So when it does materialize, and when it does become mainstream, that we're ahead of that to be able to compete with the more, let's say, the bigger giants out there in
Yeah.
the centralized space.
And now, what platforms is the MVP available for right now?
It's available in Windows, Mac, and Linux.
Oh wow, okay, that's great. Yeah, I'm used to Linux being left out.
Yeah, no, we have it available in all three, and that's what we're going to be catering to for the minor app as well.
Oh,
The fully,
fantastic.
so we're going to have a fully working version before the token sale is over, which is ending at the end of September.
Okay.
So we're going to have a working product before the ICO is done, and we're going to be hitting exchanges in October.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, so is there anything that I should have asked you that I missed?
I don't know. I normally get the question, how did a doctor end up in this space?
Oh, yeah. So how did a
Yeah,
doctor end up in this space?
I'm actually a health profession dentist by profession.
Okay.
I've been in the space since 2012 in terms of market research and just kind of keen interest in Bitcoin. In high school, I used to take a lot of programming classes in C++. It has nothing to do really with blockchain, but it was just interest in technology in general that I had previously, and kind of like ignited that blockchain technology. And as soon as I kind of started reading up more and more into it, I became really interested, and I started thinking in 2015 about how to store securely medical files using blockchain
Yeah.
technology. Because medical files are very sensitive, and this was kind of the first idea of IAGON. It was called actually Juno previously, and as I did more and more reading, and also I talked to more and more people, and then I talked to Alad, our CEO and chief architect, in 2017 last year. He said, "Why are you focusing just on health records? Why not include financial records? Bank records. Why not include as much data as you can? Why not be a general kind of cloud service?" So that idea developed from there, and his expertise in AI and machine learning, he implemented the machine learning onto the platform, and the architects built actually from there.
Okay. Did you already know these people, or was it hard for you to break in and get their attention?
No, it didn't know these people. So I was
Oh, wow.
actually doing a lot of market research, and at the same time, I was looking for people to contact to learn more. When you're doing your market research, you're kind of talking to experts and trying to understand this in technical aspects. If you don't understand it, you have to talk to someone in the space that understands it. So as I was talking to more and more, I was getting a better knowledge and aspect of the scope of the space, and also at the same time, I met a lot through LinkedIn actually.
Really?
And yeah, so that's how we met actually through LinkedIn. I contacted him through LinkedIn, and then further we talked, and he's a professor actually in Israel,
Hmm.
and he's right now he's working part time there, and he's working also on IAGON at the moment.
Wow, that's an incredible story. That's really cool. You just went out there and you made it happen.
Yeah. Well, you need to be proactive, especially if you want to get somewhere, right? So you have to be talking to people, and I reached out to him, and he accepted the friend request, and then everything was kind of from there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, definitely those social networks have really made it easier to connect with people. I can't imagine
Yes, exactly.
life before LinkedIn. Now, I
Yeah, exactly. It'd be very hard to find, let's say, professionals in the space.
Mhm. Yeah, it was a different time back then.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think we've covered pretty much everything. I'm really excited about your project. I really hope to see where it goes from here. I just love the distributed computing stuff. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Jason.
All right, thank you. Goodbye.
Take care.
Thanks, Navjit, for coming on the show. IAGON could be a game changer. I really think that we are on the verge of a revolution in cloud computing, and these folks could be the ones that make it happen. They have an ICO sale going on right now, and the links are all in the show notes. You've been listening to the Talking Cryptocurrency podcast. My name is Jason Rigden, and I've been your host. Thanks for listening to the show, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great day.